Gina. I have a new topic for you today. This is a really, really, really complicated topic, and it could take a lot of time. So I'm going to give a very brief introduction to it, and then as time goes by, we can discuss more and more and more about the topic of acceptance. So just super briefly, let's introduce ourselves to the topic. So when you people may have a difficult time accepting life well before they have addiction in their family. That can be a coping mechanism for a lot of other life problems, life issues. So when we don't accept, you've got a 3-year-old and they're not accepting that it's time to pick up the toys, or they're not accepting that it's time to leave grandma's house, or they're not accepting that it's time to go to bed. Sometimes that happens.
Cope with the distress, and so you begin to not accept. So you try to push against what is actually a reality in your life. So there's an addiction, there's insanity, there's lying, there's stealing, there's cheating, there's drama, there might be, the police might be involved, there's fear, there's anxiety, so many things that come rushing into your life that are just a part of everyday reality. And it's hard to face everyday reality. So we begin to not accept it. So we either deny, we act like there's not problems, we bury our head in the sand. I will just tell you, being full disclosure, and trying to let you know that I've probably been through all of these different stages or tactics of coping, that I definitely had people tell me that they thought that I had my head in the sand. And maybe it was a coping mechanism. My guess is, it was at least part of that. I think I tried to be as realistic as I could, and I felt like, no, it's not that my head is in the sand, it's that I'm trying to put this in a perspective and compartmentalize to an extent so that I can press on with the other things that are in my life. Trying to recognize that if there's nothing I can do about it, I need to try to just accept it. So let's talk about acceptance. So I don't know your situation. You don't know mine exactly. They're all going to be different. There's going to be so many nuances that make each person's situation different. But I'm going to encourage you today to try to begin to accept life the way it is. That doesn't mean that we can't ever hope for something better, and that doesn't mean that we can't do things to improve our lives. We've already talked in other videos about doing things to improve our lives, and I want to continue to talk about things that you can do to improve your life, and I can do to improve my life in spite of what someone else might be doing. But I also today want to talk to you about absolutely just learning to accept that this is the reality. This is what is in my life space right now, whether I like it or not. This is my reality. So just for example, it took a while, probably
too long for me to accept that my husband was no longer reliable in his word or his deed. Before that, and I know I've not addressed this before, or I don't remember if I have, but not only are we Christians, and we had been Christians our entire marriage, but my husband was also a minister. He wasn't the senior minister, but he was a minister in our church and took an active role and was very involved. And so when this came into our world, it was very hard for me to believe that I could not trust my husband. It was very hard for me to quit believing my husband. If he would tell me I'll never do it again, well, that wasn't true. And it took a long, 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 long time for me to understand the reality that that is not the truth anymore, that he can be believed. But when I began to understand that is a reality and began to accept it, it didn't make it okay. It didn't even really necessarily make it not hurt me, but it helped me to cope better because, okay, he's making these promises and I believe he means well, but I know I cannot depend on these promises. I have to be realistic about whatever he says because he's tried so many times and not followed through, not been able to follow through on his word, that I need to just understand that I cannot count on him. So that was a painful process. Another, just learning now that not only can I not depend on his word that he's going to follow through, now he is a liar. Now he tells me lies to distract me. He tells me lies to point me in a different direction or to make me leave him alone or whatever. So I had to realize that and I had to accept it. It was so painful. It was, but it was still the truth. And I had to, for myself, quit believing everything he said and quit falling for everything he did. So that is just one small example. And so I just wanted to share that with you. There are so many others. Accepting that now this person is not my partner in my life.